What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be ranking all the possible ways that a man can text a woman. Listen, dude, everybody has their own text game, right? Whether you're an introvert or you're an extrovert, everybody has their own unique way of texting women. So I'm basically going to be ranking it on a scale from worst text game, which means who the fuck gave this guy a phone? Like, seriously, who the hell gave this guy a phone? You give this guy a phone, you give him a chance to text a girl, he's gonna fumble every single time. On top of that, we have terrible text game, which means, it's better than the worst possible thing you can do, but you might as well remove this guy's keyboard because he's just not gonna be able to cook in the texting field. On top of that, we have decent text game, which means, honestly, you can get away with this. It's not my personal favorite, and you probably will fumble a lot of girls texting this way, but on top of that, we have goated text game, which means if you fumble, you probably did something stupid in real life because you've pretty much nailed it down when it comes to texting. And then in the highest tier, we have text king, which means if you text this way, you pretty much own her soul because 99% of guys are not going to be texting her this way. And she's pretty much going to be experiencing a range of emotions when you text her this way, which is going to get her hooked and addicted to you. So you guys need to remember, in this social media age that we're living in, texting is the most important thing. It's probably more important than what you do in real life, because if you fuck up on text, you're not even going to get the chance to display your value in real life. And women love using social media and texting as a way to disqualify guys. A lot of guys do things over text that signal low value, and the girl immediately knows that she's not going to be dealing with him any further, and the girl either completely ghosts the guy or keeps it to where they're only texting but she's using him for attention. So the reality of playing that game is, when you're texting, you're pretty much in her domain expansion. You're in her territory. She has all the leverage and power. The goal of texting is to get it away from the digital world, to get it away from the social media and bring it to reality. Because in reality, that's when you have the leverage. That's when you should have the power. But in texting, the girl is always going to have the upper hand because that's where her game shines. That's where the indirectness comes in. So part of text game is keeping it short and sweet and making it so that you're texting less but meeting up more. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing we have on the list here is the guy who sends a lot of paragraphs, right? These are the types of people who, if something can be said in 10 words, they'll find a way to say it in fucking 200 words. These are the guys who feel the need to always elaborate and express every little thought in their head. Dude, I'm just gonna tell you right now, if the girl wanted to read a paragraph, she'd read a fucking Harry Potter book. She doesn't want you to send her all these long texts. When you're texting girls and going back and forth with them, maximum 2 sentences, maximum 2. Like, there should be no reason for you to be overly wordy and expressive on text. And there's a couple reasons why. The first is it displays low value, because think about it, right? You just met this chick and you're sending her long ass texts explaining what you did yesterday and how many friends you have and the types of fucking supplements you take. Oh, I take zinc in the morning and then 250 milligrams of magnesium. Like, bro, keep it simple with women, okay? Keep it simple on text. You shouldn't be trying to get to know her on text. That's where a lot of guys go wrong, is they think that by talking more and by going back and forth more that you're gonna get to know her more. It's the opposite. The more she knows about you on text, the less she's gonna want to know about you in real life. You have to give her an incentive to actually meet up with you by not revealing too much on text. And when you send paragraphs, you're purposely revealing your interest level. She knows you want her. She immediately knows that you're head over heels for her, and the curiosity about where you stand is completely gone, which means it lowers your value in her eyes, and she's less likely to be excited to meet up with you and even continue engaging with you in the future. So I'm gonna put paragraphs at worst text game, bro. You should really keep things short and sweet. And if you have so much to say, either meet up with her or call her. Next up, we have the guy who sends memes all the time. This is the type of person who sends girls like 50 reels a day. Yeah, she's gonna think you're unemployed. Sending each other these goofy memes back and forth. I can't believe some guys think that just because she's liking your memes and sending you memes back, that's any indication of interest whatsoever. You're friend zoned. Sending each other memes is a thing you do with your friends. It's a thing you do with your guys to have a laugh. It's not something that you do with a girl who you want to build romantic interest with. I can't believe I even have to say this, but when you guys are going back and forth sending each other goofy ass memes all the time, and then you ask her out and she's like, what? I thought we were just friends, and then you're sat there confused, you're the fucking idiot. You should have seen that from a mile away. Sending memes is absolutely horrible to girls that you're trying to get to know. I'm not saying don't be funny or try to make her laugh, but do that in real life. Don't fucking send her internet memes. Don't fucking send her goofy ass reels and public interviews and skits. That shit is so cringe. Alright, next up we have being dry, right? The guy who doesn't really give her her too much. You know, he's kind of cold. He's almost nonchalant. You know, she'll ask him a question, he'll reply with one word, or maybe the best she can get out of him is like a sentence. This one is pretty hard to rank because it really depends on how much interest the girl is showing you. If she's showing you a lot of interest and she's, you know, sending you a lot of stuff, being dry can actually be bad for you because girls are very conscious of like who's investing more. So when she looks at her text message history with you and she sees more blue than gray, then she's gonna get insecure and she's actually gonna text you less and she's gonna match your dryness. So being dry is really powerful because it creates mystery. It shows that you're pre-selected and you don't really care where it goes with her, but at the same time you have to show some level of interest on text, right? You can't just be dry all the time with no intentions or anything. So if you use dry game correctly, I would actually say it's pretty goated. On text, you should always match the energy she's giving you or less. You should never go above it, right? So if she's sending you one-liners, two-liners, don't fucking reply sending her paragraphs and shit, right? Always match the energy or give lower than it. The dry people understand how to do this correctly. Being dry can be really powerful and work to your advantage because it creates a reason for her to see you in real life. She's curious, why is he dry? Why is he not giving me that much energy? Maybe in real life his energy would switch up. Now she's curious. Now she's desperately looking to test you, so she's more likely to engage you in real life. And what really is the point of texting if there's no meeting up after? It's a complete waste of time, right? So the people who have the best text game are the ones who know how to reduce texting and keep it to an absolute minimum. Next up, we have double texting. This is completely terrible game. The reason I'm not putting it at worst text game of all time is because if you fuck up and double text once or twice, it doesn't completely kill all of your chances, but it is unattractive and you essentially failed the shit test. If you notice that a girl is pulling away or taking really long to reply, the last thing you want to do is get on her ass about it and start double texting her. It shows neediness, it shows desperation, it shows clinginess, and it shows that you have no life. Next up, we have complimenting her too much. And dude, these are just the types of guys who every fucking time they send a text to a girl, the word beautiful or gorgeous or some shit is always included. Like, hey beautiful, what did you have for breakfast? Wow, you look gorgeous in that photo. Like, these are the types of guys who just spam compliments, right? And the problem with doing this on text is that you lose the very little amount of leverage that you actually have because the validation and the compliments, if you really want to give that, if you're fucking itching to give a compliment, it should happen on a call or in real life. Because when you give it on text, she already got the dopamine spike from your compliments and you're training the girl to not give a shit about your future compliments. You're essentially desensitizing her. So keep the whole gorgeous, beautiful shit to a bare minimum. So many simps do this too, so you complimenting her on text doesn't even make her feel anything. It's such an ineffective strategy. This is a horrible game. Next up, we have the inconsistent texter. One of my favorites. This is going straight to text king. There's three types of guys. The first guy is the one who always replies instantly, right? Every time the girl texts him, he replies within the minute. On the dot every single time. That's horrible and that's gonna kill her interest so quickly. The second type of guy is the guy who thinks he's smart but he's actually not because he doesn't understand that women can sense the bullshit he's on. The second type of guy, what he'll do is he will purposely wait a couple hours. This guy's not actually busy. He has nothing going on in his life, but he will wait a couple hours to text back to make it seem like he has something else going on, to make it seem like, oh, look at me, I'm so busy, thinking that that's gonna raise her interest, when in actuality she knows. Why does she know? Because you're too predictable. Just because you're taking hours or even days to reply doesn't mean her interest is gonna go up, because she knows you're fucking plotting and doing it, because no one's really that busy all the time that they consistently take 6 hours to reply. Now the third type of guy, the superior guy, what he will do is mix the two. Because think about it, what would a guy who's actually busy and have a lot of options do in his life? He would reply whenever he feels like it, and he would reply whenever it's convenient to. So he might take 5 minutes because, you know, she texted him, he saw the notification, all right, let me just reply. But then she texts him another time and he's actually busy during that time, like he's not on his phone, and then he takes 3 or 4 hours, and then maybe he's on a fucking camping trip, and then he takes 2 days the next time. So the guy who replies inconsistently, she can't figure him out because he's actually busy. She's always wondering what he's doing. Her dopamine receptors are going through the fucking roof because she's constantly anticipating the next reward of you replying. Is it gonna happen in 5 minutes? Is it gonna happen in an hour? Is it gonna happen in a day? She doesn't know, so it's powerful. You're engaging her emotions just by being inconsistent. If you do this correctly, you own her fucking soul. Next up, we have calling instead of texting, or in other words, using texting as a means to call. I love this one. This is going straight to go to text game. When you ask a girl to call, you're putting her in a polarizing situation to reveal her true interest level to you. Does she actually want me, or is she pretending to want me, right? Because she will text any fucking guy, dude. It's so easy to get a girl texting you back. You could be a guy who's unattractive, has no status, isn't pre-selected, and you could honestly probably text back and forth with a 10. It's not that hard. What's hard is getting one-on-one time with her, isolating her from all her other options to where you're both talking to each other and there's no other distractions. Calling is great because she can hear your voice, so she can tell when you're cracking jokes, she can tell your mannerisms. Like, it's so much easier to display emotion and create a vibe when you're calling compared to when you're just texting. Next up, we have FaceTiming her. This is going to Text King. FaceTiming in the digital world is the closest you could possibly get to a real life one-on-one interaction. You can see each other's faces. She can see your facial expression. Sometimes the girl will even shit test you on FaceTime. She will use FaceTime to see if you're worth even seeing in real life. You can show your value. You can show your confidence. If you really have advanced game, you can even show things like your status and your pre-selection. So FaceTime is a great way of displaying your value compared to just texting. And it also means that she's interested enough in you to actually get on the call with you. Now, the only reason I put FaceTime above calling is because it's a more intimate connection, but honestly, it depends on the girl you're with, because if the girl's introverted, she might only prefer calling over FaceTiming, so it's really up to you. Both work great. Next up, we have the guy who checks up on her all the time. Yeah, this is terrible game, man. Like, this is the guy who texts her at least 3 times a day. Hey, I'm just checking up on you. Are you alright? Hey, I'm just checking up on you. Dude, she doesn't need you to fucking check up on her all the time. She's not a toddler. Unless you've been dating this girl long term and she's your girlfriend or whatever, there should be no reason for you to always hit her up trying to check up on her and all that shit. Just do your own thing. She's doing her own thing. I'm sure if she's in fucking danger, she has someone who she can contact and ask, not some random guy who she met on a date, okay? So relax. Next up, we have giving her life updates. This is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. You're killing the mystery, you're killing the intrigue, you're killing every possible thing that could make her want to meet up with you if you're constantly texting her, sending her life updates. I can't even believe I have to say this, but like the types of guys who say, hey, just left the house, on the way to work. Uh-oh, I just realized my car's out of gas. I'm headed to the gas station. Oh my god, I got a promotion. Today's my lucky day. Why are you giving her an update on every inch of your life? First of all, she doesn't care. Like, I promise you she doesn't care. Second of all, she's gonna think you have no friends because you're telling her every little thing about your life. And she's gonna think you're way too interested and in love with her. Keep the situations where you actually have to talk about your life IRL. Next up, we have the guy who only texts her to meet up. This is the guy who does not have any conversations on text. He doesn't ask many questions about her personally. He doesn't reveal too much about himself. He only sees texting as a gateway to meeting up in real life. So the only time he'll send her a message is like, hey, do you want to meet up at this place or go to this place with me? This guy's a fucking text king. Not necessarily because he's gonna get the most girls doing that, but because he's saving himself so much time. The guys who do this are gonna make the most money in life. Next up, we have the small talker, aka the guy who just engages in a lot of small talk over text. I'm gonna put this at decent game. You know, a lot of you guys would think that this would go lower, but you actually want to get the small talk phase out of the way on text rather than doing it in real life. So like all the rudimentary introductory shit where you're getting to know each other, get that shit out of the way quickly. And the best thing to do is just like send a couple text messages. It doesn't have to be too long, but just a couple introductory initial text messages, just getting to know each other a little bit before you schedule meeting up with her. Now, if you're a real baller, you would skip this altogether because I'm gonna be honest, it's actually pretty unnecessary to even have small talk with a woman at all. Like, you genuinely don't have to do that. But for some of you, I know it's kind of like a logical first step and you can't really not do it. So I think it's decent. Go ahead if you want to. Next up, we have the intellectual texter. Terrible game. These are the guys who use advanced vocabulary, punctuation, grammar. They text her with fucking commas, full stops, and semicolons. Dude, relax. You're not texting your fucking professor. You're texting a chick, okay? Just calm down. This gives off try-hard energy. You're trying too hard to appear formal and academic, like you were fucking born on a college campus. With women and texting, there's this weird psychological aspect where the less you try, even with your words, the more attractive you're perceived to be, because it's like, oh, he doesn't give a fuck. He'll type anything, right? So weirdly enough, misspelling words and using acronyms and abbreviations, that could actually be to your benefit because it shows you don't give a fuck. Next up, we have the deep talker. These are the guys that women text at fucking midnight. You know, they're having a back and forth deep conversation till 3 a.m. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but this gives her unemployed vibes. Yes, she's gonna text you and you're gonna think you're getting somewhere, but every second that goes by where you're having a deep conversation on text with a woman, you're actually getting friend zoned. Like, dude, I get it, right? I get it. You want to monologue your thoughts. You want to tell her how hard it is in life and how you can't find someone you love. Dude, please just keep it to yourself or tell your guy friends about it. You tell a girl this shit, is gonna turn her off. Next up, we have the guy who spams emojis, dude. So this is the guy who uses emojis to express every emotion he's feeling or everything he's saying. This is just cringe, man. It's terrible text game. Like, don't remove this guy's keyboard. You can get away with being a bit of a goofball in real life, but you can't get away with being a goofball on text. Next up, we have the sexter. I'm gonna put this at decent game because it depends on who you are, right? Guys who she's very, very attracted to can get away with this, but But if you're a guy in the medium to low interest category and you were planning on raising her interest, asking her for nudes and shit, that's just gonna drop her interest right to the fucking bottom. I personally recommend most guys don't do this because it's a fucking waste of time anyways. Like, why would you sit there sexting her and trying to get nudes off her when you can just meet her in real life and smash? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Next up, we have sex offenders, guys who seem to only text minors, aka most YouTubers these days. Alright, next up we have the casual texter. You're probably wondering why I chose this photo. I mean, this guy just looks casual. Look at him, you know, he just looks like a really casual guy. I think this is goated, man, because the casual guys, the guys who don't reveal too much, they have this like, hey, want to meet up at the park kind of energy, and they don't really give a fuck. They're a little bit carefree. They're usually very outcome independent. Those kinds of texters do the best with girls. They don't give off any kind of creepy vibes, which is great as well. So yeah, it's pretty goated overall. Just make sure you don't go too casual for too long, or else you're gonna end up friend zoned, right? So you have to introduce the hot, aka the polarizing energy, which makes her more romantically and sexually interested in you. Next up, we have the interviewer. This is just the guy who asks questions all the fucking time. Yeah, this is terrible because you never want to be in interview mode. You never want to be asking her too many questions and she just answers. Like, a lot of you guys, if I looked at your text message history with some girls that you're interested in, how it would be is like you ask them a question and then they answer, but they just answer the question, right? They don't ask you any questions back. They don't even elaborate. It's just like you ask her something, she says yes. You ask her something else, she says no. That's how you know she's not fucking interested, right? So stop asking them more and more questions if they're continuing to be dry and not asking you questions back. Next up is the emotional guy who texts her, I miss you and all that shit. Worst fucking text game of all time. On text, you never want to give off this like, I need you, I miss you kind of energy. You're the masculine, you're the penetrative force. You're always doing stuff in real life. You're always active and busy. You're not thinking about her all the time. She's thinking about you all the time. She misses you. That is the true feminine to masculine dynamic, which unfortunately we've lost in this modern world, but you can reintroduce it. Next up, we have the Snapchatter. This is great for the younger chicks. So if you're a young guy watching this video, Snapchat is great because you can send them text mixed with photos, right? So you can actually show them what you're doing. There's more personality and engagement rather than just words on a fucking screen. However, I will say be careful with Snapchat because the girls on there, they be snapping so many dudes at the same time. So you could just be another fucking orbiter on her phone. So make sure that she's actually interested in you while you're snapping her. Next up, we have replying fast all the time. Yeah, I already went over this. This is horrible. Next up, we have replying to her stories. In my opinion, this is probably one of the best ways to slide in a girl's DMs, because the problem with sliding in her DMs without any context there, just like, hey, I thought you were pretty, is that it doesn't feel natural, and women love it when things just feel natural and like it just happened, right? And some of them are so stupid that if you reply to their story of them in a fucking coffee shop and you say, whoa, I really like that coffee, where'd you get it from? Her dumbass is actually gonna believe you care about the coffee. So she's much more likely to reply to you as opposed to the guy who's just hitting her up because she's pretty. So with women, context matters a lot. Replying to her story is a great context to start a conversation. Next up, this isn't a way of texting a particular woman, it's just like a strategy for texting a lot of them. If you're a guy who wants to plate spin, or if you're a guy who wants to talk to so many chicks at the same time, this is the equivalent of the volume shooter from my Rizzler video, except that you're shooting volume on text, so you're DMing a shit ton of girls at the same time. Yeah, this is decent if you have high SMV or whatever, but the reason I don't like it is because if a girl you're with sees that you're DMing a bunch of other girls, you might think, no, doesn't this show pre-selection because I'm talking to so many girls? No, it actually lowers your value because she doesn't know whether the girls you're DMing like you. It just shows desperation that you're fucking DMing all these chicks. It's not a good look. I personally don't recommend it, but a lot of guys have success with it, so I'm not hating on it.